Radio.
All right, let's get started. The convener of the Media Coalition Against Illegal Mining, Dr. Ken Ashigbey, joins us on the phone. Dr. Ashigbey, thank you for your time. Good morning.
Yeah, well, I'm not too sure about anything being good about the morning. I almost responded as good morning, but I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I mean, for the sake of accuracy, I suppose we can't just go with the pleasantry of good morning.
Yeah.
We're joined by Daryl Bosu. He's Deputy National Director of Rocha, Ghana. Daryl, it's a pleasure. Thanks for making the time. Pity about the circumstances, but we're glad you're with us.
I'm happy I could join the discussion as well, and good morning to your team.
Yeah. I'll start with Dr. Ashigbey. I watched this yesterday. I still haven't recovered. I wonder what your reaction is to this documentary.
Well, so on the steering committee as well, Rastus gave us a sneak preview of what it is, and it just tells. It's sad. It's as if we, this current generation, after us, we don't think that, anybody else is going to come again. And even after, it's not even just about us. Even us, it's as if only just a few, we have this sad issue mentality that we're cutting our very tongue, and thinking that we have some meat, that we're chewing. And, it's so painful what we are doing to ourselves. Even if we're doing this to our enemy, it should still be painful. And this is what we are inflicting to ourselves. Unfortunately for us, the masses of the people are quiet. We're sitting and we're allowing our leaders, to perpetuate this, ecological terrorism on us. And you then would leave the lone ones like, Tuvo and a few others who, would really, and yourself, who will be pushing this. Why are we allowing this? How on earth did the parliamentarians, the NDC and NPP, allow the LI 2462 to be passed? Go read, the purpose of that regulation. And you wonder, if you really, this is the purpose you want to do, why wouldn't you leave the forest? Even when you have not given permits. The Forestry Commission were still, allowing people to go in there and do what they have to do. In 2018, before this law came in, Heritage Imperial was in the same forest, pillaging the forest. With they only had a prospecting license, and the EPA had told us specifically. There's a letter from the EPA saying that they did not have the right to mine. These people had gone to court, and in their case against Erasmus, they had mentioned that they are mining operations. If there is, even in court, they agree that they were mining when they did not have the EPA license. How come those people have not been arrested? And now you go and pass this law that is now going to allow people to. Now you are confused. You'll be confused. You don't even know whether these are the legal people or these are the illegal people. You listen to. I remember when the fight was at this, the amount of money that Professor Frimpong Boateng said we needed to come to use to restore our land, and we are allowing this to happen. And the World Bank itself has also given money to do what? What accountability measures have they put in place to ensure, that if they say people are supposed to be reclaiming the land, they are, actually that is what is being done. I am sad. I am really, really sad this morning that this is what we are doing to ourselves.
Daryl, I mean, listening to you on the documentary, there was two key issues that you brought up. But really, the sense I got from everything you shared was that we are in this futile cycle where we put pressure on government to fight Galamsey. Government comes out with all kinds of initiatives, appoints all kinds of people, sets up all kinds of task forces, puts money into these task forces to go out there and fight illegal mining. Then the same government gives permits to people to go into places that are protected to go and mine. These people go there and do something other than what their permit allows them, and the government permits it. The government goes in, stops one organization from mining and allows another meters away to continue mining. Meanwhile, they are going out and borrowing money to come and reclaim land, which they gave permits to somebody to reclaim, and the person went there to mine. Now that money that they've taken, we have to pay it. Water company cannot purify water, so we have to pay them too. It's a horrifying cycle where the people that we are relying on to fight the thing are now the problem. How does Rocha even begin to combat this?
So Joe, I think the issue that what you described for me, it's a very sad situation, and actually presents a cartel, more or less, in place within the government machinery, trying to scheme on a daily basis how to actually undertake illegal activities without the citizens getting to know about it. Now, all the things you are describing, this should be done by people or illegal actors who have no respect for the laws of the land. But unfortunately, what you see happening is that this is actually being perpetrated by our own state agencies. I mean, they scheme to get people get into our forests under the guise of restoration activities, only for them to undertake mining activities. They scheme under the guise of meeting and coming out with laws on environmental protection for forest reserves, only for them to open up forest reserves for more mining activities. And so, I mean, it describes a very sad situation where now citizens have to fight our own government, which in itself is perpetuating a sort of a cartel system where they are finding on a daily basis ways to outwit citizens and get the better of our forest reserves by destroying it through illegal activities. And so for me, I think it's very sad. And you ask yourself, you see citizens talking about these issues on a daily basis, bringing up issues, but if the government, which is supposed to be assisting, providing the enabling environment, is engaged in some of these things themselves, and they see nothing wrong with it, then how do we as citizens actually nip these issues in the bud? I mean, we've had a situation where the CEO of the Forestry Commission has said that he has nothing against mining in our forest reserves. And that is where I think it starts. The problem starts from there. The people at the helm of affairs say one thing and act contrary to it. So we are starting with the wrong leadership in place. And until there's that big change there, all that we are doing, Doc is saying, Ken Ashigbey is saying talking about it. A lot of organizations are talking about it. The World Bank is pumping money into it. If the leadership is wrong and they themselves think that this thing should continue, I don't think we are going to make any headway in resolving this issue. So I believe that we need to really come to terms with the fact that the leadership in place, dealing with the Galamsey, dealing with protecting our forest reserves, are the wrong people in place. And until we change that, we cannot really deal with this fight.
Now, Dr. Ashigbey, the only place where people are represented in governmental decision-making is Parliament. Last year in November, they passed LI 2462, which essentially made forest reserves open game for Galamsey, for mining. A place that, places that were protected. Places that were protected, they've passed a law and they worked together to do this, because we didn't hear minority coming out to complain that they are not in favor of it. They passed it all together.
Kojo, you're spot on. You see, the more I read this piece of legislation, then I wonder whether, the people who we have taken to Parliament, and I'm sure this would have started from Messi, because they would have been the people who would have brought this in. And so you ask yourself, if you say that the purpose of the regulation is to provide environmental management for mining activities in forest reserve, and we all know that even before you gave the permit, we have this major challenge, on our hands. We all know that even when the Minerals and Mining Law, the sanctions, were stiffened, you've not been able to do. Why then do you now provide an avenue for which, places, if you go and read 3.2, it says, that's why paragraph A, the president may, subject to Article 265 of the Constitution, give approval in writing to mining companies to undertake mining activities in globally significant biodiversity areas in the national interest.
Hey,
so places that globally, have global biodiversity significance. We are finding ways in which we are going to allow people to go in there to go and destroy it. Already, if you look at the statistics, and again, this is the same government who now spends money to say that we should put forests in place. Then we also are living in a world where there's money coming from carbon trading. So if you have all of this and you have other places that you can mine, why should you have to go into the places that are under threat? The places that is the source of our water, the places that is, Erastus put it very vividly, that the lungs and the kidney, it takes out the carbon dioxide and then puts up oxygen back in. So why would you want to now create an avenue where people will say, in the guise of now there's a law in place, to go into those places to be able to go and mine? That's why I say that it's as if we have a suicidal, tendency to say, let's kill those, those who live slightly longer. And I am disappointed from the speaker all the way to the people in parliament that they sat down and allowed this LI to be passed. How do we do this? And you notice that I only heard of this year. November, when this thing was passed, I'd never even heard of it. Definitely, as key stakeholders in this whole conversation, you, the media, you should have been consulted to say, this is the airline that we're thinking about to bring. How, what are your thoughts in it? You see, so this thing where, we are suffering, the Constitution says we, the people, are suffering. And the same law even is supposed to, one of the things is, the purpose is effective stakeholder consultation and participation. If it is effective stakeholder consultation and participation, how come none of us as citizenry heard of this and we were called in to say, should we actually pass this? So I think the disappointment for me is becoming grave and grave. So we've gotten to the point where I think that the way of fighting this has to change. And I think that civil society groups, apart from Daryl and a few of us, we are becoming too quiet. There's a platform that has been created with CSOs and the ministry. Nothing really happens on that platform. You don't hear people saying anything about it. Our chiefs, our pastors, and again, I'll say the lone voice of Futile, the bishops, my own Catholic Bishops Conference, the Christian Council. I think your silence is deafening, and we're actually being killed. And today now, all of us are now suffering. So I'm sure that if now I decide to go to court, because somebody's mining and taking his money out, it's not only polluting the water, but now it's taking money out of my pocket. For every water I drink, I have to pay extra for it. So we all now have a stake in this. So I'm calling on the Bishops' Conference. I'm calling on the Pentecostal. I'm calling on the Chief Imam that if we leave this thing to only the leaders, nothing is. Now the World Bank is even complicit. Because they might get some interest on the loan they are giving us, they are complicit. Because you ask yourself, where is the accountability in all of this that they are doing in terms of the reclamation? How would I, as a citizen, be able to see that this person who actually has been sent to do reclamation is the person doing it? Go back and look at Heritage in Priya and look at the owners, the licenses that have been given to them. They've been given licenses for reclamation all the way to, mining licenses. So they go in there with one particular purpose and then they do another. There were situations where they had 18 excavators. And if you ask my other colleagues who are mining engineers, you would not need those excavators to do reclamation exercises. So how come all of those things are going on? And where are the DCs, the MCs that the president met, and read the route out to them? How come all of those people who are bothering this forest reserve and still have Galamsey happening in there, still at post? How is it that we allow the military to now get in to the forest reserve before they find excavators? When the Ministry and Minerals Commission tell us that they now have tracking devices on all of these excavators. And how is it that we have police on all these routes and they have these excavators going through their barrier and we don't see them till they are found in the forest reserve? How is it that when those excavators are bent, we don't take the chassis numbers and trace them back to those people who imported these excavators, anybody who bought it, anybody who hired it? How come all of those people have not been lined up, for prosecution? How is it that now we then get the Minister for Roads, who would then see a few excavators in this community and then seize them? The people who have been mandated to work, how is it that we are not working? We all need to sit up and say, enough is enough. We've gone beyond enough is enough. We are at the point where currently, our water, situation is not unsustainable. We are a water distressed country very soon. And we have gone to a point where we are not even importing timber from other places because of what we are doing. Yeah. We've gotten to the point where, in terms of the poisoning that is going on, we've gotten to the point where now you go to places like Convener and all of that. You see children that are being born with multiple lips, where the eyes are somewhere else. You are seeing the level of kidney disease, the level of kidney diseases, the ages at which we are getting it come down, and then the numbers go up. And all of this, what are we waiting for as Ghanaians? What are we waiting for to make sure that, to say that this thing, where we're going to, it's not sustainable? We cannot we've been mining how many years in this country? Ages and ages. We are not going to mine ourselves out of the poverty we are in if we do it unsustainably. So we can, we need to rise up. We need to rise up. And that's why, for me, I would suggest to the president the O2-4 model, that all his people, his appointees, who have been appointed, and we have Galamsey happening, he should be taking them out. He's either going to take them out for two reasons. Either they are complicit where they should be prosecuted, or they are incompetent. So for both cases, they are not worthy of representing them. The Director General of CID, we are also serving you a notice. We're going to be writing back to you. The case of Akonta mining, you were investigating. Where are we with it? Mr. President, Bosu who DC was caught on tape, confessing to a crime and illegality. How come he's only been dismissed? How is it that he's not being prosecuted? If you don't do that, and the young people don't see that people who are politically exposed, when they do it, nothing happens to them. Like the situation where you go and see the forestry people go and then burn other people's motorbikes, and they allow an excavator to happen. If you don't apply the hot stove principle that anybody who touches Galamsey, the punishment is so stiff, we are going to continue on the spiral that we are on.
Yeah. Sure, there's a lot to unpack there. Now, Daryl, in a statement that you issued to the press in June, you outlined all your concerns about LI 2462. And this one in particular is the one that interests me. Okay, so it's about prohibited areas. And you say that under the original guidelines, the environmental guidelines, globally significant biodiversity areas, like Ken mentioned, were exempt. For example, Tano Ofin and Etua Range Forest Reserves. They were all exempt from mining or exploration. Under the new LI, however, and I'm quoting, the president can approve mining in these uniquely critical areas if it is, quote, in the national interest. It appears this relates directly to government's bauxite mining plans for these two GSBAs. That said, the Boyne Tano Forest Reserve, also a GSBA, is already under a gold mining lease that was applied for and granted as soon as the LI was passed.
Yeah.
It is now known, it is not known, if this lease has the mandatory presidential approval or even how it can be in the national interest. So is this what you mean when you talk about a cartel?
Yes, Kojo. So you see, as you have rightly pointed out, we realize that the whole idea behind this LI and why it was skewed this way is because government wants to have access to the remaining forest reserves in this country, which are considered protected and which have for a long time been protected because of their globally significant nature, either for biodiversity or for water services. And that is how come Atawa and Tano have come up very strongly. And we think that, within the CSO caucus, we believe that the main reason why this LI was passed was because government wants to continue have access to forest reserves like Atawa Forest, which provides water for about 5 million people, and also critical biodiversity hotspots like Tanofing. But that said, let me also make a statement that in Ghana, there are such of the protected forests, the GSB, there are about 30 of them. which we have actually presented to Ghana's commitment to the International Convention on Biological Diversity, and as part of our clearinghouse mechanism. So these protected areas, these 30 GSBAs, are so critical to us that as a show of our commitment to our signatory to the International Convention on Biological Diversity, we say this is what Ghana is doing to protect these significant areas. As it is, and with this ally, we have effectively eroded any action or any commitment to the International Convention on Biological Diversity. And as you know, we had the CEO of the EPA in Montreal last year and talking about Ghana's commitment to biodiversity, whilst in actual fact, they were actually pushing for an ally that is actually going to expose all forests and including GSBAs to mining. And this is where we say that the government really is scheming on a daily basis. They have no commitment to all the international proclamations they're making out there, the signatories, because when they come down, what they do is actually very, very contradictory. And so we believe that until we really start looking at some of these conventions and how government is really implementing them and show some accountability, we can't trust our government now with what they are doing. And I think I very much agree with Dr. Ashigbey when he talks about the fact that the international bodies like the World Bank who keep funding us, where is accountability and what are they looking out for? We need to really start questioning some of the measures our government is taking in relation to some of the commitments we are putting out there. Otherwise, they will keep changing our laws gradually. And like was said, this particular ally, it was done in a manner to exclude participation of key stakeholders in the sector. There was discussion somewhere in 2019 to look at really even making the existing guidelines on mining and production for even more stringent. Since 2019, there was no further engagement with stakeholders. And then in 2022, we wake up and we hear that the government has passed an ally rather allowing for mining in all forests, which is very sad. So this scheming of government must stop. And like Dr. Ashigbey said, we need to see some of our state agencies, some of our traditional authorities, and all those institutions also participating in some of in action to really address some of these scheming actions by government that is going on right now.
Right. I need to check a detail with you. You know, this 103 million that the World Bank has lent to Ghana for reclamation. In your monitoring of this space, where has this money been spent? Which mining sites have been reclaimed so far with this money?
I have to say we've not been able to really monitor what is going on the ground. But what we can say is that this is not really a grant, and as you know, 75% of it is actually a loan, and we Ghanaians need to pay back. So the fact that companies can go to the ground, get prospecting licenses or mining concessions, go take out the gold, go and sell it for their own benefit, and then Ghanaians have to pay for the environmental damage is even very worrying. And I think that we need to stop this kind of intervention, this kind of credit facilities that the World Bank keeps churning out for our government. I think we really need to ask for it as citizens that we can't really continue living as a country this way. Why should we watch the companies destroy the environment and the public come to pay for it after? I think it's something that shouldn't even happen at all. We need to call the same companies to book. Why should companies go and undertake illegal prospecting activities if the issue come up and the Forestry Commission and the Ministry of Land themselves have come out to say that 47 reserves were given forest entry permits for prospecting activities to be done? These mining companies went in there and did illegal mining activities. However, they have not been persecuted or actually been brought to book for the illegalities they committed instead of undertaking prospecting. So it's very unfortunate that I think we have not really internalized the cost of the environmental destruction associated with mining that is going on in this country as it is. And it's very unfortunate.
In fact, having listened to you, Dr. Ashigbey, and Daryl Bosu, it has become clear that there is a need for something, for a certain escalation of our action against Galamsey. So here on Joy, we are going to dedicate the next month on our show to Galamsey. We're going to dedicate the whole of this coming month of September to Galamsey. And we're going to make sure that we turn up the heat so that whatever needs to be done to make this thing a high-risk activity for those involved in it, especially those in our government, we will do so. For now, I want to thank you, Dr. Ken Ashigbey and Mr. Daryl Bosu, for your time with us. Ken Ashigbey, of course, is the convener of Media Coalition Against Illegal Mining. Daryl Bosu is the Deputy National Director of Rocha, Ghana. You'll be hearing more from these two and others.